Tonight, we are going to walk through the city of York in the later Middle Ages, slowly and quietly, as if we are following a night watchman from dusk until dawn. We are not walking through a general old city. We are choosing a real place, York, in the north of England. A walled city with Roman foundations, medieval stone defenses, fortified gateways called bars, narrow streets, rivers, markets, churches, butchers' lanes, workshops, taverns, yards, stables, rubbish pits, and sleeping houses. A city that would later become famous for ghost walks and haunted stories, but which tonight will be treated as a factual place first. The time is not exact to a single year. We can imagine the city in the 15th century, after its great medieval gates had taken much of the form that still makes them recognizable today, and before modern lighting, modern police, modern drains, modern paving, modern traffic, and modern sleep had changed the experience of night. The route we follow is a careful reconstruction. No surviving document gives us the full nightly path of one named York Watchman, hour by hour, street by street. So we will not pretend that it does. Instead, we will use what is known about York's walls, bars, streets, trades, rivers, sanitation, and civic order to imagine the kind of walk a watchman might make through the real city. The work begins as daylight thins. The first thing to picture is not the watchman, but the city itself. York is enclosed by walls and entered through gates. In York, these gates are called bars: Bootham Bar, Monk Bar, Micklegate Bar, Walmgate Bar, and others. They are more than openings. They are stone gatehouses built to control movement. They stand where roads pass through the city's defenses. By day, people, animals, carts, goods, news, disease, taxes, and gossip can all move through them. By night, the city closes. The closing of a gate changes a city. It turns the wall from a background into a boundary. It turns the road from a public way into a watch threshold. It turns a traveler into a question. It turns a key into authority. As dusk settles near Bootham Bar, the minster rises behind the roofs. The great church is not a soft outline in the way a modern skyline might be. It is a mass of stone, glass, towers, scaffolds, memory, labor, and faith. It stands above a city where the hours are shaped by bells, by daylight, by markets, by church observance, by work, and by the practical limits of what can be done after dark. The street surface is uneven. Some parts may be paved, some patched, some muddy, some worn into channels by wheels and feet. The air holds many things at once: damp stone, horse dung, wood smoke, river mist, old straw, tallow, leather, wool, ale, cooking, and the sour traces of human settlement. Medieval York was beautiful in some ways, especially around its great churches and guild buildings, but it was not clean in the modern sense. Its beauty and its smell belong to the same city. A watchman entering his work does not step into silence. He hears doors closing. He hears shutters pulled inward or fastened from inside. He hears animals being settled. He hears the last movement of carts. He hears feet on stone and packed earth. He hears voices becoming lower as people finish business that should have been done before dark. He hears bells from church towers and smaller sounds from yards. A bucket set down, a latch move, a horse shifting weight, a dog deciding whether to bark. The watchman's main role is not to be a modern detective. He is not a police officer in the later professional sense. His work belongs to an older civic system of watch and ward, local responsibility, gatekeeping, order, and nighttime supervision. He is there to help keep the peace, control the gates, notice suspicious movement, respond to disturbance, watch for fire, and make the sleeping city less open to disorder. In York, sources describe watchmen connected with the bars. There were normally 1 or 2 permanent watchmen employed for each main gateway, and the number could be increased in special circumstances, such as plague threats or royal visits. The gates could be locked at night. One source describes them as locked between 9 at night and 4 in the morning, with only high-status citizens holding keys able to enter and leave while they were shut. That one fact is enough to change the whole feeling of the city. The night watchman's world is a world of thresholds. Who is inside? Who is outside? Who has permission? Who must wait? Who belongs to a household? Who belongs to a ward? Who is merely late? Who is drunk? Who is lost? Who is bringing news? Who is carrying goods? Who is trying to avoid being noticed? He does not need every night to be dangerous. Most nights are ordinary. That is what makes them useful to us. The watchman is a worker in the ordinary darkness. He may carry a lantern. He may carry a staff. In English urban watch systems, staffs and simple arms appear often enough that we can imagine the object without turning him into a warrior. A staff is not a sword. It is an implement of authority, balance, walking, warning, and defense, if needed. The lantern is equally practical. It lets him see the ground, the latch, the face, the puddle, the open door, the loose animal, the edge of a step, the shadow beneath a stall. He begins near the gate, because the gate is the city's strongest sentence at night. Bootham Bar stands on older lines of entry into York. The site is connected with Roman and medieval layers. The bar we see today contains medieval work and later alterations, but in the world of the script, it is a fortified point where stone, timber, and human rules meet. Historic England notes that medieval town gates allowed people in and out and were closed at night for security. York's bars were part of that same logic, but they were not identical copies. Each had its own age, repairs, form, and history. The watchman looks at stone that has already been old for a long time. Stone does not make the night silent. It changes how sound returns. A footstep in a gate passage comes back from the arch. A voice spoken under a vault sounds closer than it is. The air inside the passage is cooler. A lantern flame moves differently where the wind presses through the opening. If the timber doors are shut, the sound beyond them is muffled. The city is inside. The road is outside. It is a gatehouse, masonry, archways, upper rooms, passages, sometimes a barbican, sometimes a portcullis, sometimes guard rooms, sometimes later prison rooms, sometimes civic storage. In York, the major bars show different combinations of these features. Micklegate Bar has early 12th century masonry in parts of the outer arch and passage, with upper stories of later medieval stone. Monk Bar, built largely of Magnesian limestone, was designed so that each floor could be defended. Walmgate Bar retains a barbican, portcullis, and wooden inner doors. Bootham Bar retains evidence of a portcullis and sits on a long defensive line. The materials are not abstract. At Micklegate, sources describe gritstone in early parts of the arch and passage, including reused Roman stone. In upper medieval work, Magnesian limestone appears. At Monk Bar, the gatehouse is described as built almost entirely of Magnesian limestone. At Walmgate Bar, the surviving wooden doors are described as 15th century oak boards, strengthened with vertical members and hung on iron hooks. The doors include a smaller wicket, a little door within the larger door, narrow enough to control passage without opening the whole gate. Think of that slowly. A great pair of oak doors stands inside a stone passage. Iron hooks carry the weight. Ironwork holds timber together. A portcullis hangs or waits above, a gridded barrier that can be lowered. At Monk Bar, a wooden windlass and iron ratchet are part of the portcullis mechanism described in the building record. At Bootham Bar, the portcullis is described as a timber grating with pointed upright members. These are not decorative medieval ideas. They are working pieces of security and control. The watchman knows their sounds: the scrape of a bolt, the small complaint of timber in damp air, the dull ring of iron touched by a hand, the hollow space above the arch, the way the lantern light catches a hinge, the smell of wet stone and old wood, the way a wicket door can make a person stoop to pass through, reminding the body that permission has a shape. The gates also belong to money. Medieval city gates helped control tolls and taxes. Goods came in and out. Animals came in and out. Traders came in and out. The walls were not only military. In late medieval York, a relatively peaceful period did not remove the usefulness of walls. The walls controlled movement, marked jurisdiction, helped collect tolls, and gave the city a way to decide who and what belonged inside. As the watchman leaves the gate, he carries that idea with him. The city is closed, but it is not asleep all at once. Some people are still awake because work requires it. Bakers may prepare for early hours. Servants may still move in large households. Brewers, innkeepers, carriers, and people near the rivers may have reasons to be late. A sick child may keep a household awake. A fire may need tending. An animal may need settling. A person may be returning from a tavern after staying longer than he should. The watchman does not expect purity. He walks where the wall and streets meet. A normal path would depend on assignment, ward, gate, season, risk, and orders from city authorities. A watchman posted at a bar might stay close to the gateway, its room, and the nearby streets. Others might patrol specified lanes or respond to calls. During a heightened watch, more men could be set at gates and along important points. For our walk, we can follow a plausible circuit through a closed city, from a bar, along or near the wall, through streets leading toward the minster, down into commercial lanes, toward the rivers, and back toward a gate before dawn. The first stretch is a listening walk. He is listening for human movement, but also for the city itself. The city wall has its own night. Modern visitors often walk York's walls for pleasure, but medieval walls were working structures, repaired, altered, defended, watched, and argued over. They were made of stone, but they depended on civic organization. Walls do not close themselves. Gates do not judge strangers. Keys do not choose hands. People make the wall into a rule. If the watchman walks near the wall, the city lies on one side and the outside road on the other. Beyond the wall there may be fields, roads, suburbs, religious houses, gardens, ditches, and approaches to gates. Inside are roofs, yards, wells, churches, trades, and the complicated density of urban life. He might pause where the wall gives a view over rooftops. The minster darkens the sky. Smaller churches punctuate the city. York had many parish churches in the Middle Ages, far more than a modern listener might expect in a compact urban space. Bells, saints' days, parish boundaries, processions, burials, markets, and guild life all shaped how people experienced the city. Even at night, the church is not absent. It organizes memory, time, fear, hope, and the soundscape. Some are tile. Some may be thatch in earlier or poorer contexts, though towns worried about fire and regulated building materials in different ways over time. Timber-framed buildings lean and jetty over streets. Upper stories can project beyond lower walls, narrowing the strip of sky above a lane. The effect in lantern light is not only picturesque, it is constricting. It makes streets darker. It catches smells. It shelters corners. It lets rain drip in lines from roofs and gutters. The watchman's route must adapt to darkness. He cannot see the city like a map. He knows it by habit. A turn by a wall, a churchyard boundary, a shop front, the sound of water, the slope toward a bridge, the smell of a trade, the soft ground near a ditch, the sound under an arch, the difference between a household that is awake in an ordinary way and one that has opened a door for trouble. This is one of the central facts of the night. Watchwork is local knowledge. The watchman knows where the cobbles are uneven. He knows which lane holds water after rain. He knows where pigs have been kept, where dogs bark, where butchers work, where refuse collects, where a tavern door is likely to open, where a stranger may come in from the road, where a fire would spread quickly, and where a cry might echo in a misleading way. He also knows the city by smell. York's medieval streets carried the evidence of everyday work. The history of York notes that butchers' offal could rot in ditches and streets. Privies were built in places that affected the city environment. And a 15th century account described corruptions and foul air. York's Civic Trust describes household scraps, butchery offcuts, craft waste, animal waste, and daily rubbish as recurring urban problems. The point is not to make the night disgusting for spectacle. The point is that smell was information. A sweet, warm smell may mean baking or brewing. A sharp smell may mean hides, urine, or a craft process. A sour, wet smell may mean refuse near water. A smoky smell may mean a hearth settling correctly or a fire that needs attention. A strong animal smell may mean a stable, a yard, a market residue, or dung in the street. The watchman reads these things the way a modern person reads street signs. As he turns into narrower streets, the city becomes more intimate. The walls are no longer the main fact. Houses are, shops are. A medieval house in a city is not sealed away from the street. Shutters close, but sound passes. Smell passes. Smoke passes. The street carries the residue of the house, and the house carries the residue of the street. In a lane of timber buildings, the watchman may pass close enough to hear a cough through a wall. He may hear a child turn in bedding. He may hear someone moving a pot near a hearth. He may hear the low voice of a person speaking, so as not to wake others. Most people are not sleeping in private modern bedrooms. They may sleep in shared rooms, in chambers above shops, near goods, near tools, near apprentices, near servants, near family, near stored clothing, near food, near smoke. Wealth makes differences, of course. A wealthy merchant's household is not a poor worker's lodging, but urban sleep is still close to work. York is a working city, not a museum street. The watchman passes closed shop fronts. In the day, these spaces would be louder. A stall board lowered, goods displayed, hands counting coins, apprentices calling, carts waiting, animals moving, neighbors arguing, customers pressing through. At night, the same places become wooden surfaces in darkness, but they are not empty in meaning. Behind them are goods worth stealing, food worth guarding, debts remembered, tools needed in the morning. He is not only guarding people, he is guarding stored labor. Rats and mice are not decorative details in this walk. They are part of the city's ecology. Where people gather food, grain, straw, animals, waste, and shelter, commensal animals gather too. The University of York's work on historical rats notes that black rats were associated with dense human settlements and trade, and that they are not native to Europe. The Rattus Project studies how rats moved with human settlement and economic history. For medieval York, black rats are the historically important species to mention. Brown rats are a later arrival in Europe, probably associated with the 18th century, so the modern sewer rat should not be quietly imported into a 15th century York night. The watchman might see a black rat, he might see mice. He might see movement rather than a clear animal, a quick shape near a sack, a sound behind a stall, a small body crossing a gutter line, a tail vanishing into a gap below timber. He would not need to stop and name it. It would be one of the city's ordinary signs, Why would rodents be there? Because the city feeds them. York has grain. York has bread. York has animal feed. York has butchers. York has rubbish. York has yards. York has river margins. York has timber buildings with gaps, floors, voids, and storage areas. York has ships and trade connections. York has houses where food is kept and waste is not removed in the modern way. Rodents need food, shelter, warmth, and cover. A medieval city supplies all four. The shambles gives us one of the clearest places to understand this. The Shambles is now one of York's most famous streets, but its history is rooted in meat. York's historic environment record traces the street's connection with butchers and earlier names. York Civic Trust explains that the word shambles is linked with the wooden shelves or benches where meat was displayed, and that behind the shops were slaughterhouses. Waste from butchery was part of the street's reality. It is not necessary to make the description lurid. A butcher's street creates scraps, smells, liquids, offcuts, straw, hooks, boards, and drainage problems. At night, after trade is done, the watchman would not see a polished tourist lane. He would pass through a working food street after dark. Imagine the street without modern glass, shop signs, electric light, or visitors holding cameras. The upper timber stories lean toward one another. The passage is narrow. In places, the buildings seem to press the sky into a ribbon. The street channel is damp. The wooden stalls are closed. Hooks and beams are dark shapes. A butcher's household may sleep above or behind the place of work. The day's trade is over, but the smell remains. This is where a rat may be most believable. Not because York is uniquely filthy, but because meat, grain, straw, water, and human settlement make opportunity. A small animal moving in such a place is not a supernatural sign. It is the city doing what cities do. He does not chase every rat. That would be absurd. His work is human order, fire, gates, disturbance, movement, and response. But he notices what rodents indicate: a gnawed sack, a spill, a weak storage place, a midden too close, a food shop not well closed, a place where waste has not been carried off. In a city that doesn't understand disease and modern germ theory, people still notice foul air, bad smells, spoiled food, and the practical need to remove filth. Medieval public health was not nothing. It was not modern science, but towns did make rules about waste, nuisances, water, and smells. The watchman belongs to that broader world of civic maintenance. He is not a sanitary inspector in the 19th century sense, but he walks through the evidence of urban management and urban failure. Now the walk turns toward fire. Fire is one of the watchman's quietest and most serious concerns. A medieval city is full of burnable things: timber framing, roof materials, straw, rushes, cloth, fuel, workshops, hearths, candles, lamps, ovens, stored goods. A small flame belongs to ordinary life, but ordinary life is exactly why it must be watched. At night, fire changes character. By day, a hearth is cooking, warming, working, smoking. By night, it is being banked, covered, watched, or neglected. A candle guttering near cloth is a small private event until it is not. A baker's oven can be a necessity and a risk. A workshop with embers can become a city problem if no one notices in time. The watchman's lantern itself is controlled flame, useful and dangerous, carried through lanes made partly of wood. He looks up as much as ahead. Smoke should go somewhere. If it comes oddly through a roofline, if the glow behind shutter seems wrong, if the smell changes from hearth smoke to something sharper, the watchman must notice. He may knock, he may call, he may rouse a household, he may seek help, he may do nothing if the fire is ordinary. Much of watching is deciding when a thing is normal. In this quiet walk, the fire watch does not need to become a disaster. The stronger subject is prevention, the quiet, repeated act of noticing before anything happens. That is one of the least dramatic and most important forms of public safety. The city is filled with low lights. There is no electric wash of brightness. Light is expensive in labor, materials, or risk. Candles, lamps, rushlights, hearths, and moonlight all create small islands rather than general visibility. A person standing in a doorway may be bright on one side and invisible on the other. A puddle may reflect light before the object beside it appears. The watchman's lantern makes a circle, and beyond the circle is the rest of York. The listening is layered. Near sounds, his shoes, his staff, his own breath, the lantern fitting. Household sounds, coughing, shifting, whispering, a latch, a pot. Animal sounds, dogs, horses, pigs, chickens in yards, mice in straw, rats near storage. Civic sounds, bells, gates, calls, a distant voice near a tavern. Natural sounds, rain, wind, water, the soft pressure of fog. The weather matters. York's rivers make dampness part of the city's identity. The River Owls and River Foss shape movement, trade, risk, smell, and atmosphere. Low-lying water margins collect mist. Flooding has always mattered in York's story. A night watchman near the water experiences a different city from the one near a gate. The air may feel colder. Sound may carry strangely. A boat line may tap. A timber post may creak. Refuse near slow water may smell stronger. Rodents may find cover along margins where human waste and stored goods meet. York Civic Trust notes that the River Foss was dammed in the 11th century to form the King's Pool, and that slow-moving water margins became dumping grounds for medieval residents. That detail is useful because it makes the riverside factual, not merely atmospheric. The water is not only pretty moonlight, it is transport, boundary, work, waste, smell, and danger. The watchman near water checks different things. Boats, crossings, people moving after hours, the edge of the bridge, the sound of someone where no one should be, the smell of a place where waste has been thrown, the state of a postern or smaller gate. A city with rivers cannot be watched only at its main roads. If the night is foggy, the city becomes smaller. The minster disappears above the lower roofs. The wall is present only by touch and habit. A lantern makes the mist visible without making the distance clear. A quiet street becomes less certain. The watchman may know where he is, but knowledge and visibility are not the same. He counts turns. He knows slopes. He knows that this smell belongs near the water, that this echo belongs near stone, that this open feeling means a market space, that this close pressure means a lane of timber houses. Now we come to curfew and order. Curfew does not mean every person instantly vanishes from the streets. It means the rules of movement change. Gates close. Taverns may be expected to shut. People without good reason to be abroad can become subject to challenge. A person carrying a key has a different status from one who does not. A household returning late has a different explanation from a stranger waiting outside a bar. The watchman asks simple questions. Who are you? Where are you going? Why are you abroad? Do you belong to this ward, this household, this trade, this city? These questions sound ordinary. In a medieval city, they matter deeply. Identity is local. Reputation is local. Rights are local. Movement after dark is not anonymous in the modern way. A small city knows its faces better than a metropolis. But York is also a place of visitors, clergy, traders, pilgrims, officials, apprentices, servants, and travelers. The watchman lives between familiarity and suspicion. he is also not all-powerful. Older watch systems could be uneven. Some watchmen were permanent, others served by rotation or appointment in different towns and periods. London sources describe householders serving on the night watch, later often hiring deputies, with watchmen supervised by constables. York's own arrangements were not identical, but the broader English pattern helps us understand the mixture of civic duty, local authority, and practical limitation. A watchman may be tired. He may be cold. He may know that some people laugh at watchmen, avoid them, bribe them, insult them, or simply ignore them. The later reputation of watchmen in some cities was not always heroic. But a sleepy watchman is not the same as a useless system. The presence of a watcher, a locked gate, a call in the night, and a known place of authority changes behavior. It also gives the city a memory of the night. If something happens, someone saw a person near a lane. Someone heard a cart. Someone found a door open. Someone noticed smoke. Someone challenged a stranger. Someone knew which gate was closed. This is not modern surveillance. It is human recollection, civic habit, and local accountability. The walk now passes places that would later feed York's haunted reputation. York today is widely marketed as a haunted city. Visit York lists ghost walks and describes haunted tourism as part of the city's visitor culture. The original Ghost Walk of York presents itself as established in 1973. These facts belong to modern York, not 15th century proof of ghosts. The episode can use them gently. York feels haunted to many visitors because it is layered, old, narrow, stone-built, and filled with stories of plague, punishment, faith, poverty, war, illness, and everyday death. But a sleepy cat episode should not claim supernatural events as fact. Instead, we can say this: the haunted city is a later way of feeling the old city. The watchman himself does not need to meet a ghost. He has enough to meet already. He meets darkness, he meets gates, he meets damp, he meets rats, he meets doors, he meets the smell of butcher's waste and the smoke from hearths. He meets the silence after a market. He meets the river. He meets the fear of fire. He meets a person who should be home. He meets fatigue. He meets the strange way a familiar street can become unfamiliar when the lamps are few. That is more useful than a ghost story. The city is not haunted because we can prove spirits in the lane. It is haunted in the ordinary historical sense, filled with traces of lives that are gone. A stone arch remembers hands that cut it. An oak door remembers trees, tools, hinges, repairs, and the bodies that passed through. A butcher's lane remembers animals, food, smells, trade, and waste. A river remembers what was thrown into it. A gate remembers who was allowed through and who was left outside. This lets the walk borrow the curiosity of haunted York while staying honest. We can place the watchman in an old city that later became famous for ghosts, but we do not turn him into a ghost hunter. Deep night comes slowly. By now, the city's first restlessness has changed. The people who were late are mostly inside. The ordinary tavern noise has thinned. The working households have settled. The watchman has passed the gate, the wall, the narrow lanes, the butcher street, the riverside, and perhaps a tavern door. The second half of the night is less about closing the city and more about enduring it. It gathers under arches, near water, beside stone, along shadowed lanes. It is not Antarctic cold. It is English damp cold, the kind that enters wool slowly and stays. A watchman has to keep moving. Standing too long makes the body stiff. Walking too quickly wastes energy and reduces attention. The right pace is practical. Slow enough to listen, steady enough to stay warm. Animals become clearer because people are quieter. A horse in a stable shifts and exhales. A dog barks once, then decides nothing is worth continuing. Pigs are a common nuisance in medieval towns generally, and animal waste was part of York's street problem. Cats may move silently near yards. Chickens are mostly settled. Mice work where grain is stored. Black rats, if present, prefer the shelter and food created by human settlement. The Watchman hears small lives making use of the sleeping human city. This is a good place in the narration to be precise about rodents again. Not every shadow is a rat. Not every medieval city detail should become a plague lesson. But black rats had a real historical presence in European urban settlements. They are associated with human food, shelter, and trade. Brown rats belong to a later European story. Mice would also be ordinary around grain, straw, food storage, and buildings. The Watchman might run into rodents because humans have built a night buffet of crumbs, grain, hides, waste, animal feed, and warm gaps. He may see one near a stable yard. Not huge, not monstrous, a small black rat or a mouse, at the edge of the lantern light. Its movement is quick, because it has more to fear from people than people have to fear from it in that moment. It disappears beneath a board. The Watchman keeps walking. That is enough. At some hour after midnight, bells matter again. Medieval time is not measured only by private clocks. Bells organize prayer, labor, warning, and community. A watchman may know the night by bells and by bodily habit. He knows when the city has entered its deepest sleep. He knows when bakers or servants may begin to stir. He knows when the eastern sky is still dark, but morning is already preparing its claims. The minster is still there. Its stone is not visible in detail, but its mass belongs to the watchman's sense of place. York without the minster is difficult to imagine. Even when unseen, it organizes the city. The watchman's route bends around a world of parish churches, religious houses, guild buildings, houses, halls, markets, and lanes. The city is a map of obligations. A churchyard at night is not automatically frightening to medieval people in the way modern horror might suggest. It is a consecrated place, a burial place, a parish place, and part of everyday religious geography. Death is not hidden outside the city. It is woven into the parish. A person passes the dead because the dead are near the living. Again, this is where haunted feeling can arise without making supernatural claims. The old city is full of reminders. The watchman may not dramatize them. He has work. That may be the most honest thing about him. He cannot spend the whole night being poetic. He checks. He listens. He walks. He waits. He repeats. Repetition is the job. The strongest quietness of the walk comes from this repetition. Gate, lane, yard, wall, bell, river, hearth, gate again, not padding, pattern. Human safety has often depended on patterns so ordinary that people stop seeing them. Someone closes the gate. Someone looks for fire. Someone challenges the late stranger. Someone notices a broken latch. Someone remembers the sound of a horse that has got loose. Someone knows the city well enough to hear when it is wrong. Near the last part of the night, the watchman returns toward a bar. The gate that felt final at dusk now feels temporary. It is held through the night. Its timber doors have kept their place. Its stone arch has gathered damp. Its iron has cooled. The portcullis, whether lowered or ready, is no longer an image of threat. It is a machine of waiting. Walmgate Bar gives us one of the most tangible examples of gate material because its surviving features are unusually rich. The building record describes Magnesian limestone, a barbican, a portcullis, and 15th century oak doors strengthened with timber members and hung on iron hooks. A smaller wicket in one door allowed limited passage. This is exactly the kind of detail a viewer can hold in the mind. Oak boards, iron hooks, stone arch, portcullis, wicket door, cold passage, lantern light. The watchman knows that the city is not protected by one thing. It is protected by layers: wall, gate, door, lock, portcullis, watchman, ward, household, reputation, bell, neighbor, habit, and dawn. Dawn does not arrive all at once. First, the darkness changes color. The air above the roofs becomes less black. The street is still cold. The lantern is still useful, but weaker. The city has not opened, but it has begun to think about opening. Somewhere a baker is already at work. Somewhere a servant is awake. Somewhere a horse is being fed. Somewhere water is being carried. Somewhere a household fire is coaxed back from embers. The watchman's work shifts from guarding the closed city to preparing for the open one. When the gates open, the city changes state. The road outside is no longer stopped. Goods can move, people can enter. Animals can be driven. Markets can begin. Tolls can be collected. News can arrive. The watchman's night becomes someone else's morning. He may be tired. His feet may be damp. His hand may smell of iron from a latch or gate fitting. His clothing may hold smoke. His eyes may be irritated by lantern light and cold air. He may have seen nothing dramatic. That is a successful night. No breach. No serious disorder. No gate left open. No traveler admitted without notice. No cry unanswered. The city has slept imperfectly, but it has slept. As the door or gate is opened, sound returns quickly. Wheels, hooves, voices, market preparation. Bells, birds, water, tools, coughs, a shout from someone who has already begun working. The old smells sharpen as movement stirs them. Smoke, dung, bread, ale, river damp, wool, and the remaining traces of yesterday's waste. The rats and mice withdraw into cracks, walls, straw, storage, and shadow. They do not disappear from the city. They simply return to the margins where human beings have made room for them without meaning to. The watchman has walked through a city that is both beautiful and practical, sacred and dirty, guarded and vulnerable, famous now for ghosts, but built then from stone, timber, iron, labor, habit, smell, and rules. Before we leave him, it is worth walking the city once more in a slower order, because a medieval night is not only a line from sunset to sunrise, it is a circle of repeated checks. The watchman may pass the same doorway twice and learn two different things from it. At the first pass, a household may still be awake. A shutter may be open. A child may be crying. A pot may be moved near the hearth. Someone may be putting away tools or bringing in a garment that has been drying badly in the evening damp. At the second pass, the same house may have gone quiet. The shutter may be fastened. The child may be asleep. The pot may be still. Smoke may be lower. The watchman notices the change without making a story from it. This is how a city is watched, not by one heroic moment, but by comparison. The gate was shut when he passed before. Is it still shut? The tavern was noisy. Is it now quiet? The horse was tied. Is it still tied? The fire smelled ordinary. Does it still smell ordinary? The lane was empty. Is someone there now? Such questions are the quiet machinery of the night. We can begin the second pass at Micklegate Bar, because Micklegate gives the night one of its strongest physical anchors. Micklegate was the great gate on the road from the south and west, the ceremonial entrance by which monarchs traditionally entered York. The building record describes the bar as a rectangular gatehouse with a passage at ground level and upper stories of. It contains early 12th century masonry in parts of the arch and passage, and later medieval upper work. It also reused Roman stone, including large blocks and sarcophagi in the walling. That detail matters because York is a city built not only on earlier history, but with pieces of it. A watchman at night would not think of reused Roman masonry as a modern archaeologist does. He would know the stone is part of the gate. But we can see the deeper fact. Roman, medieval, and later city all overlap in one structure. A city gate is not a clean line between eras. It is a place where old materials are made to perform new civic work. The passage under a bar is a controlled space. It narrows people. It slows carts. It makes sound echo. It lets a small number of watchers observe many entrants. It gives the city a point where speech can be demanded. It also makes the watchman feel the weight of the city above him. Rooms over the passage are not merely romantic. They could be used for different purposes across time: storage, dwelling, prison, museum, and later centuries. A gatehouse is vertical civic space. Street below, rooms above, wall walks to the side. At night, the construction becomes more obvious because there is less to distract the eye. The arch is black at the top. The grit stone takes lantern light differently from limestone. The ironwork has a colder shine. The timber gives back a duller color. If rain has fallen, water may darken the lower stones and collect near the passage. Hooves and wheels have worn the way. A gatehouse is never purely military, never purely architectural, never purely symbolic. It is used, repaired, stained, scraped, and argued with by the movement of a city. The watchman might check the smaller parts before the larger ones: a hinge, a latch, a bolt, a wicket, a groove, or a portcullis rises or falls, a stair into the thickness of the wall. A dark place where a person might shelter, a corner where straw or rubbish might catch. He does not admire the gate the way a visitor does. He knows whether it is behaving. Monk Bar gives a different kind of detail. The building record describes it as a 4-storied gatehouse, dating mainly from the early 14th century, with an upper story added in the late 15th century. It was built to a sophisticated defensive design. Each floor could be defended even if another had been captured. It retains a working portcullis. That is an extraordinary quiet fact, because it lets the listener imagine a real mechanism. The portcullis is not a symbol. It is timber, iron, slots, grooves, windlass, and control. At Monk Bar, the record describes a wooden windlass with bars and sockets, and an iron ratchet and pawl to prevent slipping. This is the kind of ordinary mechanical fact that makes history feel solid. Someone had to build it. Someone had to maintain it. Someone had to know how it moved. Someone had to trust that it would not fall at the wrong time or fail at the right one. Imagine the watchman inside the upper chamber. The room is stone-floored. Narrow openings admit little light. A fireplace marks the fact that people used this room, waited in it, and tried to keep warm in it. The mechanism is above or near the passage below, connecting a human hand to a barrier large enough to change the street. If the portcullis is raised, it is stored force. If lowered, it is a visible rule. The city is asleep under machinery. Longate Bar gives us the oak doors. Its record describes 15th century wooden doors made of oak boards, strengthened with timber members, and hung on iron hooks. It also retains a barbican and portcullis. A barbican extends the defensive and controlling space outward, creating another layer before the gate itself. In plain language, it means a person approaching the city did not simply reach one flat door. The approach could be contained, watched, and slowed. The smaller wicket door in Walgate's larger door is especially useful to notice. A wicket lets one person pass without opening the full gate. That tells us something about medieval control. The city did not always need to choose between open and closed. It could create a narrow exception. A messenger, a person of status, an official, or someone with recognized business might pass through a small opening while carts, animals, and general movement remain stopped. A small door inside a larger door is a physical version of permission. The watchman knows this. He may know who has a key. He may know whose face belongs to authority. He may also know that opening even a small door changes the night. Air moves, sound moves, risk moves. The closed city is briefly perforated. Bootham Bar, near the Minster side of the city, adds another layer because it stands on a long-used line of entry. The building record connects it with the remains of a Roman fortress gateway and with medieval rebuilding. The portcullis evidence gives the same sense of controlled passage. A watchman near Bootham is not simply guarding a door. He is standing where centuries of roads have met the city. When the gates are named, they should be named slowly. Micklegate, Bootham, Monk, Walmgate. These are not just map labels. They are points in a sleeping system. The next part of the second pass belongs to streets. Medieval York's streets were not all the same. Some were major routes, some were market spaces, some were lanes attached to trades, some were near churches, some were near water. Some had better paving, some were muddy, broken, or narrow. One source on medieval York notes that Patrick Pool was so deep in mire in the 13th century that it was described as impassable, and that Bootham's paving was in poor repair around the same broad period. We do not need to turn every street into mud. The important point is variation and maintenance. A watchman knows which streets are easy. He knows which ones hold water. He knows where the middle channel is slick. He knows where a cart has damaged the surface. He knows where an animal may stumble. He knows where a person can stand beneath an overhang and not be seen at once. The word street can sound too clean to a modern listener. York is also lanes, passages, yards, approaches, channels, and market spaces. It is not a grid of asphalt. It is a compact, lived-in place with turns, churchyards, walls, small courts, and practical shortcuts. The watchman passes a house above a shop. The upper story projects. The lower part is closed for the night. The threshold is worn. The shutters are heavy. A sign may hang, not brightly painted for a tourist, but useful to people who know symbols and trades. If rain has fallen, drops fall from a roof edge into the street channel. The smell from inside the house is not separate from the smell outside. Smoke has entered cloth. Food has entered wood. Animals have passed close to the wall. Boots have carried mud across the floor. In such a city, privacy is thin. The watchman may not see people, but he walks among sleeping breath. Behind each wall is a small arrangement of bodies and duties. Master, wife, children, apprentices, servants, lodgers, kin or workers. Some households are prosperous, others are crowded. A poor person may sleep near goods, tools, straw, or the corner of someone else's domestic world. Comfort differs by wealth, season, building, fuel, bedding, and luck. The street after dark is also a place of stored economy. Cloth, meat, tools, grain, leather, ale, fuel, and metalwork do not stop being valuable because the sun has set. A locked door protects labor already done and labor planned for morning. The watchman protects the conditions under which ordinary business can resume. This makes the night less romantic and more interesting. He is walking through inventory. He is walking past rents. He is walking past apprenticeships. He is walking past debts. He is walking past food. He is walking past the material reasons a city bothers to close its gates. Now return to rodents, but more carefully. Rodents belong as a thread through the night, not as a single unpleasant moment. In the butcher's lanes, the reason is scraps, smell, offal, fat, straw, and hidden corners. Near grain storage, the reason is seed and flour. Near stables, the reason is feed, bedding, warmth, and spilled oats. Near rivers and dumping places, the reason is refuse and cover. Near houses, The reason is human food and shelter. Near walls, the reason is cracks, dry niches, and movement routes between inside and outside spaces. The University of York description of black rats makes one point especially valuable. Black rats depend heavily on human settlement in climates like Britain. They are not simply wild animals wandering through a separate nature. They are companions of human density. Their presence says something about trade, storage, ships, grain, buildings, and warmth. So, if the watchman sees a rat near the shambles, it is not just because the night needs atmosphere. It is because a medieval food economy has left traces that a small animal can use. If he hears mice near a grain sack, it is not random. Grain is concentrated calories. It is also rent, bread, survival, and tomorrow's work. A mouse near grain is a tiny economic problem. If he hears movement near river waste, it belongs to the same pattern. Cities concentrate matter. Food in, goods in, animals in, waste out badly or slowly, water carrying some things away and holding others near the edge. Rodents are one result of concentration. It is also important not to make every rat into plague. The plague connection is real historically, but it is complicated. Modern science identifies Yersinia pestis as the bacterium responsible for plague, and plague can be spread by infected fleas associated with rodents. But every rat seen in York is not automatically a plague threat. Rodents, fleas, human crowding, movement, and disease belong to a larger historical problem that medieval people did not understand in modern biological terms. For sleep, the better emphasis is practical. A watchman might notice where rodents are because rodents reveal the city's hidden food paths. Now the walk reaches the shambles again, and we can slow down without padding because the street has enough factual detail. The shambles was associated with butchers across centuries. The York Historic Environment Record describes its development as a narrow street and notes its earlier names and butcherly associations. York Civic Trust connects the word with the shelves or benches where meat was displayed, and describes the street's long use by butchers. The buildings now admired as picturesque were once part of a working trade. In the day, meat is visual. At night, it becomes residual. The boards are shut, the hooks are still. The channel in the street holds dampness. Behind the shop are the spaces where labor happened. Butchers work with animals, tools, tables, blood, bone, hides, fat, and water. Such work requires cleaning. But medieval cleaning is not modern sanitation. Waste may be washed, carried, dumped, regulated, ignored, complained about, or left to become another person's nuisance. A watchman in such a lane might smell yesterday, even after midnight. He might hear a small gnawing. He might see a dog nosing at a place where something was not properly cleared. He might tap his staff near a shadow and see nothing afterward. He might decide there is no human problem and keep moving. That last choice matters. The watchman cannot correct the whole city. He can only perform his office within its limits. Medieval York had civic concern about waste, but concern and success are not the same. Royal orders and city complaints about foul smells make sense because the problem was visible, smellable, and politically embarrassing, especially when important visitors came. Public health in the medieval world often focused on bad air, foul smells, corrupted water, and visible nuisance. The theory behind the concern differed from modern germ theory, but the practical efforts could still matter. The watchman walks inside those efforts. He is not the person who empties a cesspit. He is not the person who writes every ordinance. He is not the person who paves a broken street. But he sees what the city has failed to finish. He sees the blocked channel. He smells the midden. He hears the animal loose in the lane. He knows where someone will complain in the morning. The route continues toward water. York's rivers are not background scenery. They are working features. The Ouse connects trade and transport. The fosse shapes the eastern side of the city. The King's Pool, created by damming the fosse in the 11th century, became a broad, shallow water body, and according to York Civic Trust, its margins were used as dumping grounds. This helps explain why a night near the fosse would not simply smell of clean water. At night, water changes civic space. A bridge is a crossing and a control point. A riverbank is a boundary and a hazard. A moored boat is property, shelter, and possible movement. A postern or smaller gate near water is a weak point if neglected. Mist hides distance. Mud records footsteps badly or too well. Refuse near the margin draws animals. The watchman might stand near a bridge and listen. Water makes small sounds larger and large sounds uncertain. A voice across water may seem near. A loose rope may sound like footsteps. A rat in reeds may sound larger than it is. A boat touching timber may knock softly again and again. If there is fog, the lantern does not solve the problem. It creates a glowing circle and leaves the rest of the river to memory. The city's haunted reputation fits naturally here, but gently. A modern ghost walk might use the river, a bridge, an alley, or a churchyard as atmosphere. Our watchman uses them as work. He is not seeking mystery, he is reducing uncertainty. That is a better sentence for this channel. He is not seeking mystery, he is reducing uncertainty. The next part of the walk is social. A city after dark is full of rules that have to be applied to people who may not welcome them. The source on York's medieval walls says 15th century watchmen were instructed to keep out people described in the language of the time as rogues, vagabonds, and other disorderly persons. The terms are historical and carry the judgments of the civic authorities. They should not be treated as our own insult. City officials use such language for people they considered likely to disturb the peace. That distinction is important. A sleep documentary can be calm and still ethically careful. A person outside the gate might be poor, displaced, late, sick, drunk, lost, suspicious, or simply unlucky. A city authority may not care about the difference as much as we do. The watchman is part of the city's order, not a neutral modern observer. He protects some people by excluding or challenging others. The closed gate is comfort for those inside. It may be hardship for those outside. That is one of the quiet tensions of the topic. The watchman's main role looks simple if we list it. Check the gates, watch the approaches, notice strangers, keep order, respond to disturbance, watch for fire, listen for trouble, help the city remain closed until morning. But each of those duties contains judgment. A stranger may be a threat, or a messenger, or someone with a right to pass. A shout may be a fight, or a drunk song, or someone calling for help. Smoke may be normal, or dangerous. A door may be open because of carelessness, illness, work, or theft. A person in the street may be breaking rules, or obeying a duty not visible at first glance. The watchman works in uncertainty. This uncertainty is why exact city detail matters so much. A vague old city makes the job vague. York gives the job texture. A watchman at Walmgate Bar is not the same image as a watchman at a random gate. A watchman passing the shambles is not passing any market lane. A watchman near the fosse is not near any river. Specificity turns atmosphere into history. Now the walk can make a very quiet turn toward the body of the watchman. His work is physical. Feet on uneven ground, hand around a staff. Eyes adjusting to lantern light and darkness. Ears trying to separate water from footsteps. Nose reading smoke and waste. Shoulders under damp wool. Mouth dry from cold air. Memory holding the route. He may carry a horn or raise a call in some watch traditions, though the safest objects to keep with him are a staff and lantern. Keys, where appropriate, belong to gatekeepers or high-status authorized persons, depending on the context. The watchman may be near those who hold keys, without every watchman necessarily carrying one. At the bars, 1 or 2 permanent watchmen are noted, and numbers could increase. In troubled times, more men might be posted. One watchman makes the walk easy to follow, while the facts remain more complex. Watching could be shared, supervised, or increased according to need. He also belongs to a working hierarchy. Mayors, councils, ward officers, constables, gatekeepers, householders, and hired deputies all belong to the broader story of urban order in medieval and early modern towns. The watchman is one visible person in a system. He is not the system by himself. The walk goes on. He passes near a tavern or alehouse after the proper hour. The outside is quieter than the inside had been earlier. A sign may move slightly. A shutter may be fastened. Someone inside may still be awake, but not loudly. Taverns are socially important places, but after dark they can become problems of noise, disorder, debt, and delayed return. The watchman does not need to hear a fight for the place to be part of his route. He needs to know whether it is closed, whether anyone is lingering, whether voices are rising, whether someone will stumble into the lane and become another small problem of the night. He passes a stable. The smell is warm, heavy, and animal. Straw lies under hoof. Leather hangs. A bucket catches a little light. Mice are plausible here because grain and feed are nearby. The watchman may hear them before he sees them. A horse shifts, and the small sound vanishes. The animal world of the city is not separate from the human one. Horses pull carts. Pigs consume scraps. Dogs guard and scavenge. Cats hunt. Chickens belong to yards. Rodents live from the edges of all of it. Not a wild food web in a forest, but an urban one made by trade, storage, waste, and shelter. The watchman is walking through that web. He passes a bakehouse. Bread is one of the morning's earliest promises. The smell may begin before dawn. A baker's work connects grain, fire, regulation, trade, and hunger. If the shambles is the street of meat, the bakehouse is the place where night becomes breakfast. Its oven is both necessary and risky. Its fuel must be managed. Its timing matters. Its smell reassures the city that morning is near. The watchman does not stop for bread yet, but the smell changes the night. There is a point in a long watch when the city begins to give away the fact that it will survive until morning. It may happen when the first baker stirs. It may happen when a bird begins. It may happen when a bell sounds different in the thinning dark. It may happen when the eastern edge of the sky softens above the roofs. Before that, the deepest hour is still. The watchman stands under a gate arch. The old material surrounds him. Stone beneath his hand. Oak across the passage. Iron at the hinge. The idea of a portcullis above. The memory of a barbican beyond. The closed road outside. The sleeping city within. This is the central image of the night. A man in a lantern circle, inside a city that is not fully asleep, beside a gate that is both object and law. The final hour is a loosening. The watchman may check whether frost or damp has made a step treacherous. Modern York City Council closes the wall walk at dusk and pays attention to ice and wind for present-day public safety. Medieval watchmen lived with the same physical realities without modern inspection systems. Stone gets slippery. Wind behaves differently on exposed walls. Winter darkness is long. Summer brings later light, but also smells that strengthen in warmth. Season changes the watchman's work. A winter night gives stronger cold and longer darkness. A summer night gives more insects, more smell, and later closure. For this walk, A cool, damp autumn or late winter night is useful, long enough for atmosphere, cold enough for discomfort, not so extreme that the facts become only weather. Let it be a damp night, not a storm, not a disaster. Just damp enough that stone darkens, wool holds moisture, smoke hangs lower, river mist gathers, and the street remembers every footstep. The watchman returns once more toward the bar. He may exchange a few words with another man, nothing theatrical, a report, a mention of no trouble near the river, a note that the tavern is quiet, a mention of someone waiting outside with a claim of urgent business, a decision to leave the gate shut, a shared silence because the night is almost over. If a person has been kept outside, the morning opening may be a relief. If a cart has waited, the animals may be restless. If a household has needed help, the story may continue into daylight. If nothing happened, the watchman's work may leave almost no trace. That is why such labor disappears easily from history. Dramatic records survive. Fires, riots, repairs, arrests, payments, complaints, ordinances, plague measures, royal visits, and building accounts leave clearer marks than ordinary successful walking. But ordinary walking made the system real. The city does not remember every step, but it depended on steps being taken. Before the light grows, there is still more of the city to understand. The deepest part of the night is not empty time. It is the part of the night when every practical system becomes easier to notice, because there are fewer people moving through it. The walls are one system, the gates are another, the streets are another, the rivers are another. The parish bells, the household fires, the animals, the trades, the waste, the stored food, and the small permissions of the city are all systems too. A night watchman does not need to name them that way. He knows them by habit. He knows which stones hold damp longest. He knows which doorways collect rubbish. He knows which lane is likely to stay noisy after it should be quiet. He knows which approach to a gate makes a stranger visible soonest. He knows how sound changes when the street narrows, and how a lantern can show less than a person expects. So we can stay with him a little longer, not to add drama, but to notice the ordinary working parts of late medieval York. The wall itself was not only a military line. By the later Middle Ages, York's wall had become a civic boundary, a symbol of status, a tool of local government, and a means of controlling movement. It could still be used for defense, but it also helped decide who entered, when they entered, what goods passed through, and what tolls or taxes might be collected. A wall makes a city legible. It gives it an edge. That edge had to be paid for. Stone walls were expensive things. They did not remain standing merely because people admired them. They needed repairs, inspections, masons, materials, carts, labor, lime, timber, iron, and decisions. In earlier periods, money for the walls could be raised through murage, a royal grant allowing money to be collected for building or repairing walls. In York, later medieval records show that the financial life of the walls changed over time, with tolls and local choices becoming part of how maintenance was handled. This matters to the watchman's walk, because the stones around him are not only old, they are administered. Someone has argued about them. Someone has paid for them. Someone has neglected them. Someone has rented a space in them. Someone has complained about an encroachment near them. Someone has expected them to keep a boundary clear. Even when a wall looks silent, it is full of decisions. The watchman may pass a stretch where the line between public defense and private convenience has grown blurred. In medieval York, parts of the walls and ditches could be leased or used in ways that were not purely defensive. Ditches could be connected with grazing or fishing. Spaces over gates could be rented. There were disputes and practical problems around people using the inner ramparts, or placing buildings and privies too near defensive features. A wall meant to define the city could also become a place where people pressed their daily needs. Animals found edges to graze, households found corners to use, trades found storage, officials found rents. The watchman found all of this at night, not as an abstract conflict, but as things underfoot, beside him, and above him. The city was defended by stone, but it was also worn into shape by ordinary convenience. If he walks near a rampart, he may smell damp grass, old ditch water, animal traces, and soil disturbed by feet. If pigs or other animals had been a nuisance on ramparts in earlier civic records, that does not mean every night was crowded with them. It means the wall was part of a living city where the edges were always being tested. The watchman is one small part of that testing. His presence says that the boundary is not self-enforcing. The gatehouses make this even clearer. Micklegate Bar, Monk Bar, Walmgate Bar, and Bootham Bar were not interchangeable doors. Each one had a different history, different fabric, and a different weight in the mind of the city. Micklegate Bar was the great western entrance, traditionally associated with important arrivals into York. Its older masonry included gritstone and reused Roman material in the passage and outer arch, while later medieval work above used Magnesian limestone. That mix of stone is a quiet lesson in how a city reuses itself. Roman material could become part of a medieval gateway. Earlier structures could be incorporated into later ones. The past was not behind the city, it was inside the wall. At night, a watchman at Micklegate would not need to think in museum language. He would know the passage, he would know the arch, he would know where the lantern threw light on a stone face, he would know the shape of the portcullis slot and the chill inside the covered way. He would know that a voice below the arch did not sound the same as a voice in the open street. The name Micklegate itself points to a great street, a major way into the city. A gate on such a road does more than stop people. It gathers expectation. People arrive there with business, status, weariness, carts, horses, messages, and claims. When it is closed, the closure feels different from the closure of a smaller door. A major road brought the outside world to the threshold. The watchman's task was to make sure the threshold still meant something after dark. Monk Bar has a different feeling. It is a tall gatehouse, 4 stories in its surviving form, with circular bartizans at angles, and a design that made each floor defensible. Its present medieval structure belongs largely to the early 14th century, with an upper story added later in the 15th century. It was built almost entirely of Magnesian limestone. Its working portcullis, retained in later records, reminds us that the gate was not only a facade. It had mechanisms, it had vertical movement. A watchman near Monk Bar would be working beside layered spaces. There is the street below, there is the passage through, there are chambers above, there are narrow openings, there is the defensive logic of one level separated from another. There is the possibility of storage, residence, later prison use, and civic adaptation. A gatehouse is a stack of functions. From outside, a traveler sees an obstacle. From inside, a city sees a controlled entry. From above, a person might see the road, the roof lines, the approach, and the wall walk. From within the passage, the watchman sees what any gate always demands: one person, one movement, one question at a time. Walmgate Bar gives another lesson. It is especially important because it retains its barbican. A barbican is an outer defensive work, a way of extending the controlled space before the main gate. Instead of one simple threshold, there is a sequence. A person approaches, enters an outer defended area, and only then reaches the main passage. Walmgate also retains a portcullis and wooden inner doors. Its gatehouse has 2 stories over the passage and the surviving structure includes magnesian limestone, with the gate documented from the medieval period and altered or restored in later centuries. At night, sequence matters. A simple opening can be rushed. A controlled passage slows a person down. A wicket door slows a person still more. A portcullis makes vertical force part of the architecture. Heavy timber doors make sound part of the architecture. The watchman does not need to fight anyone for that system to matter. The system works precisely because most people do not test it. They approach, they understand it, they wait, they speak, or they turn away. The most ordinary night is still shaped by force held in reserve. Bootham Bar has its own place in the city. It stands on a line connected with older routes in the Roman fortress. Near it, the minster dominates the sense of place. The gate is not just stone in a defensive circuit. It belongs to one of the most symbolically charged areas of York, near ecclesiastical power, memory, and the high structures of the city. If our watch begins near Bootham, it begins where civic and sacred geography lie close together. That closeness is part of medieval experience. Modern categories can separate church, state, road, trade, housing, sanitation, police, and architecture. A medieval city holds them against one another. Bells help mark time. Parish boundaries structure belonging. Markets shape movement. Gates control entry. Streets carry waste. Rivers carry goods. Churches gather sound, obligation, burial, charity, fear, hope, and calendar. The watchman moves through all of it, because night does not divide the city into clean subjects. Night joins them. If a bell sounds, it may be heard in a lane where butcher's waste has left traces in the channel. If a gate is locked, the person waiting outside may be a traitor, a servant, a messenger, or someone unwelcome. If a dog barks, it may be because of a stranger, another animal, a cart, a smell, or nothing important at all. If a household fire flares too brightly behind a shutter, it may mean warmth, cooking, carelessness, or a risk that deserves a second look. The watchman has to live with uncertainty. He does not solve every sound. He sorts them. Some sounds are left alone. Some sounds are checked. Some sounds are remembered for the next round. Some sounds are reported in the morning only if they became trouble. This is why the work is quiet but not passive. He is not merely walking. He is filtering the city. A good watchman notices without turning every notice into alarm. He knows that a city after dark is full of harmless disturbance. Timber cools and shifts. Animals settle badly. Drunken men sing and then stop. Children cry. A shutter knocks. A loose signboard moves. Water drops from an eave. A rat pulls at something under a stall. A horse stamps. Someone coughs behind a wall. Someone prays. Someone whispers. The point is not to make a perfect silence. The point is to keep disturbance from becoming disorder. Now we can return to the shambles in the butcher lanes with more care. The shambles was not always the postcard street it later became. Its narrow form came from the infilling of an earlier, more open area, and its name history shows a long connection with meat selling. It was associated with butchers over centuries. In the 15th century, one recorded form was the Great Flesh Shambles, a name that makes the function plain. At night, such a street would not need to be actively trading to remain full of trade. Work leaves residue. Wooden stalls hold smells. Stone and packed surfaces hold moisture. Channels remember washing. Hooks, boards, thresholds, and shop fronts keep the shape of the day. Animals had been driven, slaughtered, cut, carried, cooked, sold, or discarded somewhere in the network of food supply. Not every part of that process happened in one lane, and not every detail can be assigned to one house without evidence. But the basic fact remains calm and firm. A butcher street gives rodents reasons to appear. Rodents follow opportunity. They do not appear because a city is haunted. They appear because human settlement makes shelter, food, warmth, and waste. Black rats are especially important in the history of European towns because they are closely associated with human settlement and trade. Research at York has treated rat remains as evidence connected with urbanization and long-distance movement. Black rats were not simply background animals. Their presence can indicate the density and connectivity of human life. For a watchman, that scientific language does not exist. He sees movement. Small, quick, low, a shape at the edge of lantern light. A rustle near a basket. A scrape under a board. A pause, then a dart. If he sees rats near a butcher's street, grain store, rubbish edge, stable, or riverside, he does not need surprise. He has seen the daily city. He knows where food has been. He knows where straw lies. He knows where people throw what they no longer want. He knows that darkness belongs partly to the animals that live from human habits. Mice would also have reasons to be close. Grain, bedding straw, leather scraps, crumbs, warmth, and nesting places can all draw small rodents. A stable yard with stored feed, a kitchen yard with scraps, a shop with sacks, or a storage room over a gate could offer cover. The watchman may not identify species as a modern biologist would. He notices the problem in practical terms. Something has been chewed, something moved in the corner, a sack is not sound, a household complains, a cat waits too intently near a wall. The animals of the city are not only pests. Horses matter because transport depends on them. Dogs matter because they warn, guard, scavenge, and disturb. Pigs matter because urban and suburban animals could cross into places where officials did not want them. Chickens, geese, and other domestic birds may belong to yards or edges of habitation. All of them make sound. All of them complicate night. A sleeping city is still inhabited by more than humans. The watchman's walk is therefore an animal walk as well as a human one. He hears hooves before he sees the horse. He smells stable straw before he reaches the yard. He hears a dog make one low sound, then decide whether a second is necessary. He hears a small animal inside stored material and cannot always see it. He passes a place where a household cat is working more seriously than it appears to be working. These are not decorations. They are part of the urban ecology. The city feeds them, uses them, fears them, tolerates them, and tries to control them. Waste is the bridge between the human city and the animal city. Medieval York had drainage and sanitation practices, but not modern systems. Waste management was uneven, local, and physical. Refuse had to go somewhere. Human waste, animal dung, food waste, butchery remains, ash, straw, broken objects, and dirty water moved through households, yards, lanes, pits, channels, carts, rivers, and informal habits. Civic authorities could issue orders or respond to nuisances, but the material reality of a dense city remained difficult. At night, waste becomes less visible and more present. It changes under damp. It gives off smell. It draws animals. It makes footing uncertain. It marks the low places in a lane. The watchman does not walk through a clean stage set. He walks through a city that has been used all day. If rain has fallen, the channels may carry diluted traces of trade and household life. If no rain has fallen, the smell may sit heavier. If frost lies in low places, waste and mud harden at the edges. If the river air pushes inward, damp can make old smells return. None of this needs discussed in the telling. It is simply how people lived before modern urban infrastructure. The rivers matter because they are both useful and troublesome. The Ouse and the Fosse shaped York's movement, trade, dampness, and vulnerability. Rivers could carry goods and people, but they could also carry refuse, smell, fog, cold air, and danger. A bridge at night is not only a crossing, it is a change in sound and exposure. The air opens, the water moves underneath. Footsteps are less enclosed. The lantern has fewer walls to catch. If the watchman reaches a river crossing, he may slow without deciding to slow. People do this near water, in darkness. The body becomes more careful. The edge matters. The sound of water hides other sounds and reveals others. A voice on a bridge can seem closer. A small splash can seem larger. A boat rope can knock wood against wood. Mist can make a familiar bank uncertain. Near the river, the watchman's job includes attention to movement that may not pass through a gate. Not all risk arrives politely by road. Goods, boats, banks, bridges, and waterside yards create different kinds of access. The walls and bars control the great landward entries, but the rivers complicate any simple idea of a sealed city. The city is closed, but it still has seams. That is why a route through York cannot be only a route from gate to gate. It must include the low places, the edges, the water. The work yards. The spaces where official order meets ordinary use. The watchman may pass near Oglethorpe, Goodrum Gate, Stone Gate, Pavement, or the approaches that connect gate, church market, and river. We should be careful not to claim an exact surviving patrol path, but we can say that a plausible night walk through late medieval York would care about the same places the city cared about. Entries, markets, ecclesiastical precincts, commercial streets, bridges and lanes where disorder or fire could matter. He needs to notice the conditions from which one might begin: a glow in the wrong place, smoke where there should be none, a smell of burning straw instead of banked embers, a door left unsecured, an intoxicated person with a flame, a workshop not properly settled, the sound of alarm in one house before the lane understands it. Fire changes time. Most events in the night can be watched for a moment. Fire cannot always be watched slowly. So the watchman's calm routine contains one alert thread that never fully sleeps. This is also why bells matter. Bells are not only religious sound. They are public sound. They make time audible over walls and roofs. They can call, warn, mark, structure, and remind. In a city without modern clocks in every room, sound carries order. The watchman's night is partly measured by what is heard from towers and churches, and partly by the lived sense of darkness moving toward dawn. Time in a medieval night is not the same as time in a lit modern room. It is colder. It is more local. It depends on bodies, bells, stars when visible, habit, and the known sequence of tasks. The closing of gates around 9 at night and their reopening around 4 in the morning, as described for 15th century York watch practice, gives the night a civic skeleton. But between those hours, a worker does not experience one blank interval. He experiences rounds, checks, pauses, reports, decisions, and the slow change in air that comes before morning. If the sky is clear, the minster may be a black form against a paler night. If the sky is cloudy, the minster may be less an outline than a mass. If mist rises, upper stone may vanish, while lower walls remain. If the moon is hidden, the lantern matters more. If the moon is bright, the lantern still matters in doorways and passages. A gate arch can be dark, even when the street outside has some light. A timber overhang can make noon-like architecture into midnight shelter. A shuttered window can hold a small line of amber and nothing more. The watchman learns that light is uneven. This is one reason the final image for our film belongs to a table and lantern rather than a wide street. After enough walking, the night becomes intimate. A whole city reduces to the reach of a flame. Old wood, an eaten bowl, a spoon set down, a cup, a cloth, a lantern whose flame is hidden but whose brightness still lives in the room. This is not separate from the street. It is the other side of the watchman's work. The city sleeps in rooms like that because someone is moving outside them. The night watchman is not only protecting gates and goods, he is protecting the possibility of ordinary rooms. He is protecting people who have stopped working. He is protecting food left for morning. He is protecting tools put aside. He is protecting embers that should remain embers. He is protecting thresholds that should not open until day. He is protecting a kind of common trust, even if nobody would use those words. Rooms over gates could have uses that changed across time. Some were rented, some became prisons in later periods. Some held equipment or served civic needs. This means the gatehouse was never merely a hole in a wall. It was property, structure, workplace, symbol, and machine. It could hold people above the passage while other people passed below. It could collect money, hold authority, store objects, and display warning. Display matters in medieval gate culture. We do not need to dwell on punishment, and we will not. But it is important to understand that a gate can speak publicly without words. Heraldry, arms, repairs for royal visits, displayed authority, and the tradition of important entrances all make a gate into a place where the city presents itself. A traveler reads the city before entering it. At night, those public meanings do not disappear, they darken. The carved surface is harder to see. The arms above the passage may become a shape rather than a message. The grandeur of an entrance becomes weight. The watchman standing below is part of that message too. He is ordinary, but his position is not. He stands where city and road meet. The late medieval city did not have a modern police force. Watch and ward belonged to older systems of civic duty and local responsibility. Across English towns, watchmen and constables formed part of the long history before professional policing. Their work was uneven, local, and shaped by custom, ordinance, need, and resources. In York, the specific evidence for watchmen at the bars lets us keep the episode grounded. So the watchman is not a fantasy guard. He is a civic worker. He is part of a system that can expand under pressure. When plague threatened, the number of watchmen could increase. When a royal visit came, the watch could be strengthened. When the city needed to project order, the gates mattered. On an ordinary night, fewer men might do the work. That changing number is another clue. The city did not imagine the night as always the same. It adjusted to fear, ceremony, disease, and politics. The mention of plague is important, but it should be quiet. A gate can keep out people, animals, goods, and disorder. But medieval people also feared the movement of disease. The walls could be used to exclude outsiders during plague threats. That does not mean the watchman understood disease in modern medical terms. It means the control of bodies at gates could become a public health measure in the terms of the time. At night, such a rule becomes personal. A person arrives, the gate is shut. The watchman must decide whether the claim is enough, whether authority allows entry, whether the person has a key or status, whether waiting is required. Every public rule eventually becomes a small human scene. Someone is cold, someone is annoyed, someone is afraid, someone believes he should be allowed in, someone has no authority to open the city for him. This is why the script should not make the watchman cruel or heroic. Most likely he is practical. He works within rules. He knows that a gate opened wrongly is not a small thing. He also knows that a gate kept closed can make hardship. The wall divides, but division is never abstract to the person standing at it. Let the watchman return in thought to Walmgate Bar for a moment. There, the surviving combination of barbican, portcullis, and wooden doors gives us one of the clearest ways to imagine medieval control. A barbican creates a defended approach. A portcullis can drop or stand as a visible threat of closure. Wooden doors create the final timber barrier. Ironwork holds, turns, braces, and sounds. Magnesian limestone forms the body around it. No single material is enough. Stone resists. Timber closes. Iron binds. The gate only works because all four are present. A city without people to close and watch it has architecture, but not control. A person without architecture has intention, but not much barrier. A lock without a rule is only metal. A rule without a lock is only speech. The watchman's world is made of these combinations. This is why the sound of a bolt matters. It is the sound of materials becoming policy. The same is true of a key. In a locked medieval city, a key can mark status. If only high-status citizens could enter or leave while the gates were locked, then access after dark was not equal. The key sorted people. It made some movements legitimate and others impossible. It turned social rank into passage through wood and stone. For sleep, we can hold that idea softly. The city is not merely asleep. It is ranked, closed, watched, and selectively open. The person with a key hears the night differently from the person without one. The watchman hears both. He hears the authorized knock and the unauthorized request. He hears the impatience of someone accustomed to passage. He hears the resignation of someone who must wait. He hears silence after a refusal. He hears the city continuing behind him. The old street names carry their own quiet information. Goodrum Gate, Stone Gate, Pavement, Shambles, Micklegate, Monk Gate, Walm Gate, Bootham. They are not merely labels for a map. They preserve memory of directions, surfaces, trades, gates, and communities. A watchman may not think of etymology as he walks, but the names of places still organize his work. A name tells him where he is expected to be, where a complaint comes from, where a person claims to live, where a disturbance should be checked. In darkness, names help hold the city together. If someone says a problem is near the shambles, the watchman thinks of narrowness, trade, food, waste, and the route toward pavement. If someone says a person is waiting at Micklegate, he thinks of a major gate and the western road. If someone says there is noise near a tavern, he thinks of closing, drink, voices, and whether it is merely late or likely to grow. If someone says there is smoke near a workshop, he thinks of flame. The city is a memory palace made practical. To walk it well, one must know not only where streets are, but what tends to happen in them. Now consider the houses. A sleeping house in late medieval York is not sealed like a modern house. It breathes through gaps. It smells of smoke and people and materials. It holds stored goods, bedding, tools, clothing, food, and animals in patterns different from modern domestic life. Upper floors may overhang lower ones. Jettied fronts make the street narrower above the ground. A person walking below feels the buildings lean in. This closeness is part of why a narrow lane can feel darker than the sky. The watchman's lantern does not illuminate an open square. It touches walls, beams, shutters, doorposts, and the wet ground just ahead. Inside, sleep itself is practical. People sleep after labor. They sleep near others. They sleep with sounds around them. They may wake for animals, fire, illness, prayer, work, or noise. The watchman's presence does not make the city silent. It makes ordinary interruption less dangerous. He is one layer in the sleeping system of the town. There are other layers: doors, shutters, household authority, neighbors, parish belonging, guild and trade relationships, the expectation that someone will challenge a stranger, the knowledge that the gate is shut, the knowledge that a disturbance may be heard. The watchman belongs to a world where safety is shared unevenly through community, architecture, custom, and attention. We can also imagine the work of clothing. He is not walking in a costume. He is walking in materials that answer weather. Wool is central because wool remains useful in damp and cold. Linen may be worn beneath. Leather shoes meet wet ground. A hood or cap changes how rain and wind reach the face. A cloak or outer garment holds warmth, but can become heavy if the night is wet. A belt carries small necessities. A staff occupies the hand. A lantern requires care. Clothing shapes attention. If his feet are cold, he notices the ground. If his cloak is wet, he notices wind. If his hand is occupied with a lantern, he uses the staff differently. If the flame gutters, he notices drafts. The body is part of the watch. Late at night, fatigue makes the body less theatrical and more honest. A shoulder aches. A hand changes grip. The same lane feels longer on the fourth pass than on the first. A small step becomes memorable because he nearly slipped there earlier. A barking dog is more irritating after midnight than before. A warm doorway is noticed longer than it should be. The watchman is not a machine of vigilance. He is a tired worker staying useful. That is a better fact than heroism. It is also better for sleep. The calmness of the episode comes from knowing that most nights are maintained by people doing work that is repetitive, imperfect, and necessary. Let us slow down near the minster again. York Minster's presence in the late medieval city is not only visual. It shaped sound, labor, identity, and movement. The great church draws craftspeople, clergy, servants, visitors, money, materials, and attention. Master masons, glaziers, carpenters, and laborers belong to the wider world of its construction and maintenance. The city around it is not simply a backdrop. It is connected to the ecclesiastical economy and prestige of the place. At night, the minster is a mass of stone above a smaller human city. The watchman may not enter its precinct. He may pass near it. He may hear bells from it or from nearby parish churches. He may see its upper parts vanish into cloud. He may use it as orientation without thinking about doing so. Large buildings become compass points in dark cities. If one turns and sees the tower, one knows something about direction. If mist hides it, the city feels smaller. The haunted reputation of York can be held here very gently. Modern York is famous for ghost walks, haunted stories, and atmospheric visitor culture. Those traditions often gather around old streets, ancient buildings, and places where visible age makes imagination easy. But for this documentary, the haunted city is not evidence of ghosts. It is evidence of how old urban fabric invites later storytelling. A watchman in the 15th century is not walking through a tourist idea of haunted York. Yet, the qualities that later feed ghost stories are real qualities. Narrow lanes, uneven light, old stone, sudden drafts, churchyards, stories attached to houses, memory of violence, plague, punishment, and grief. Footsteps heard before a person is seen, a shape at the end of a passage that becomes only a post, a cloak, a door, or mist. The factual city is atmospheric enough. We do not need to invent anything. An old city after dark already changes perception. The watchman may be practical, but he is still human. If he hears something where no person should be, he looks. If he sees a hanging sign move strangely, he checks the wind. If a shadow seems like a figure, he waits until the lantern proves it otherwise. Medieval belief included spirits, saints, devils, omens, and many ideas not shared evenly by modern people. But our script does not need to put a ghost in the lane. It is enough to know that darkness and belief lived near each other. And then, as always, the practical work returns. A latch, a gate, a smell of smoke, a request for entry, a rat under a board, a horse shifting in a stable, a bell. The city brings him back from imagination to duty. This is the rhythm of a good, quiet history episode. Atmosphere, then fact. Fact, then atmosphere. The old city never becomes vague, because every feeling is tied to a material thing. Stone, timber, iron, water, wool, dung, ash, food, keys, doors, names, footsteps. Near the final hour before dawn, the watchman's route begins to feel less like going out and more like coming back. He may retrace lanes already walked. The city is familiar now to us too. We know the gate passage is colder. We know the butcher lane holds more animal life. We know the river makes sounds uncertain. We know the wall is not only a defense, but a boundary for tax, status, health, and civic order. We know the gate is made of more than a door. We know the watchman is made of more than a lantern. He returns past places that have changed only because the night has deepened. A tavern is quieter, a hearth is lower, a yard is still, a dog has stopped caring. The river mist has thickened or thinned. The stones are colder. The small animals are bolder where people have not moved for some time. The city is not frozen. It is breathing slowly. The watchman may pause in a sheltered place and listen. This listening is not dramatic. He hears what a city sounds like when it is being left alone. The absence of trouble has texture. No shouting, no urgent running, no alarm bell, no open flame where none should be. No gate forced, no crowd gathering, no cart where a cart should not be. No traveler still arguing, no animal loose in a way that matters. This is success. Nothing has happened loudly enough to be remembered. The quietest civic labor often ends in no story, and still the material record remains around him. The early 12th century stone in one gate, the 14th century heightening in another. The 15th century alterations that made the bars more recognizable to later eyes. The wooden doors and iron hooks, the portcullis grooves, the rented rooms, the tolls, the ordinances, the complaints about misuse, the street names, the rodent bones centuries later used by researchers to understand urban life. The surviving walls that modern visitors can still walk by day, though modern wall walk gates are now managed for public safety, weather, conservation, and access rather than medieval civic closure. This last contrast is useful. Today, a person can often walk York's walls as a visitor, at posted times, with modern rules about weather and safety. In the medieval city, the wall was not a leisure circuit in that modern sense. It was a controlled boundary. It had duties attached to it. It expressed civic authority. It could keep some people out, while protecting and defining those within. The same stones can mean different things in different centuries. To a modern visitor, a wall may be heritage. To a medieval resident, it may be identity and security. To a trader, it may be tolls and passage. To a person without permission, it may be exclusion. To a watchman, it is a workplace. That is why we chose York. Not because it is merely old, because it lets us be specific. A night in York can have Bootham Bar, Monk Bar, Micklegate Bar, Walmgate Bar, the Shambles, the Ouse, the Fosse, the Minster, late medieval gate closure, watchmen at the bars, black rats as markers of urban settlement, and a modern haunted reputation treated carefully as later memory. Specifics make the night calmer, not busier. They let the mind settle onto real things. The listener does not have to float through a vague medieval city. The listener can stand beneath magnesian limestone, hear timber doors. Watch a wicket, smell damp wool, follow a lane from King's Square toward pavement. Imagine a rat near food waste for a reason. Understand that a gate closing at night changed the status of everyone on both sides. The closer we get to dawn, the less the city needs explanation. It has become a place. The watchman has walked it into order for us. Now the light grows. The gate that was a wall becomes a passage again. A great door can open slowly. A wicket can be unfastened. A bolt can be moved. Iron speaks against iron. Timber shifts. The outside air comes in with the road. The distinction between inside and outside softens. The city becomes porous. Morning workers appear first. Bakers, carriers, servants. People with animals, people with goods. People who want to reach the market before others. People who have waited because a gate was closed. The watchman may step aside as the day's economy begins to pass through the architecture he has guarded. Everything that was still in darkness becomes practical again. The shambles becomes trade rather than residue. The river becomes movement rather than mist. The gate becomes traffic rather than closure. The church bell becomes schedule rather than distant sound. The rodent becomes hidden again. The fire becomes breakfast. The watchman's staff becomes an object to put away. His night is finished because everyone else's day has begun. If we place the whole night in order, it becomes simple. At dusk, the bars closed, the watch began, the gatehouse became a threshold, the wall held the city's edge, the lanes darkened, households pulled themselves inward, the shambles kept the memory of meat and trade, rodents moved where food and waste gave them reason, the rivers carried damp air and urban refuse. The watchman listened for fire, strangers, animals, voices, and anything out of place. York's later haunted reputation hovered only as atmosphere, while the factual city remained enough. Deep night made small sounds larger. Cold gathered near stone and water. Bells marked time. The city waited. Then morning came. The gates opened. The market returned. The watchman's night became part of the city's ordinary continuation. And perhaps that is the quietest fact about a medieval night watchman. His work mattered most when nothing happened. He moved through the old city so that other people could remain still. He watched the gates so others could sleep behind them. He carried light not to make the city bright, but to make just enough of it visible, one step at a time. So we can leave him there, near the opening gate, as York begins again. The stone is pale now. The timber doors are no longer only barriers. The iron fittings hold their quiet weight. The river air moves through the streets. The minster returns slowly from shadow, and the old city, which has been watched all night, becomes ordinary once more.